On the first day of the week, the third day since the death and burial of Jesus, the women who followed him since Galilee and provided for him out of their own resources. They came to the tomb with spices early in the morning to perform for him one last act of love, to prepare his body according to Jewish custom. Along the way, they realized that they hadn't fully thought this out, and they wondered with each other, who will roll the large stone away from the entrance to the tomb? But love propelled them, though they weren't sure how they would do this. When they arrived at the tomb, they were stunned. The stone had now already been rolled back, and the tomb was gaping open. When they peered in, they were shocked to find that the body of Jesus had disappeared. And even more amazing, shocking, maybe terrifying even, where the body of Jesus had laid, now there sat a messenger, a brilliant, radiant messenger. Voila, I am your messenger. Not as brilliant as theirs, but I come with the same message. Just as that first radiant messenger read the minds of the women, so I can read yours. You have come today looking for Jesus, the one you love. And the good news is he is not here, but he is risen. And he has left you a message. The message is a promise that he actually spoke on the eve of his death. Just after he prophesied that Peter would deny that he knew Jesus 3 times before the cock crows twice, he went on to prophesy that after he rises from the dead, he will go before you to Galilee. There you will see him. When the women heard the news, they were filled with terror and amazement. And they fled from the tomb. And they told no one. No one. And so the women fled in terror and amazement. And they told no one, not Peter, not the other disciples, what they had seen and heard. The end. Whoa, calm down. All right, I hear you. This is a terrible ending, Mark. This is no way to end the good news of Jesus. It had been such a good story to this point. Mark, it was a great story of the humble Messiah, God's promised king, coming to restore the sick, the broken, the outcast, the demon-possessed, and even the dead. Such an exciting story with new twist on every corner, right? And then suddenly, this terror, amazement, and silence. This is not only a bad ending, this is no ending at all, Mark. Well, you're not alone in those sentiments. Scribes, monks, down through the centuries, have agreed that this is no ending. When they would get to the end of Mark, they would look for the missing page, and not finding it, they wrote their own endings. The second half of Mark chapter 16 are these latter endings. There's actually two there. One is short and the other longer. Maybe the longer one was written by a monk that didn't take his vow of silence as seriously as the first. But the reality is, the earliest manuscripts we have of the Gospel of Mark end with the women fleeing in terror and amazement and remaining silent. So what do we make of it? Mark has left us, abandoned us here in this empty tomb. He's not given us an encounter with the risen Christ. No fingers in the wounds of the nails. No eyes opened as disciples share a meal with Jesus, with the risen Christ. Mark offers us no encounter with the risen Christ. He only leaves us with a promise that Jesus will go ahead of us to Galilee, and there we will see him. So let's take what we got. The promise to see the risen Christ in Galilee. What is Galilee? For those first women, for those first disciples, for Peter, Galilee is home. It's the place of ordinary life. It's also the place of great suffering. Galilee is the place where there are hands that are withered, where there are legs that no longer work. Galilee is the place where minds are tormented by demons, where tax collectors are driven by greed and prostitutes by desperation. Galilee is the place where lepers are untouchable, outcast. Galilee is the place where parents of young children grieve. But any mention of Galilee to these women would have sparked memories of Jesus in his earthly ministry, performing miracle after miracle. The mention of Galilee to these women would have elicited memories of withered hands that, as they were outstretched at the command of Jesus, became whole and strong again. Galilee is the place where the paralytic is lowered in by his friends through a hole in the roof, and at the word of Jesus, he's made whole. He stands and takes his mat and walks home. Galilee is the place where Jesus welcomes tax collectors and prostitutes. It's the place where he feeds the hungry. And it's even the place where he raises the dead. Galilee, as we look back at it from this empty tomb, Galilee is the place where resurrection has already been happening, right? Through this humble king, through God incarnate, God's kingdom has already been breaking in, setting right what was broken, wounded, and lost. The resurrection is not found anymore in some sacred, empty tomb. the resurrection is promised to us out there in the midst of our ordinary daily life. The resurrection is experienced on the mountaintops, and particularly in the valleys of our daily life, in Galilee, in Stanley, or wherever we call home. So see what Mark has done to us. By not finishing his good news of Jesus, he's left us stranded here in this empty tomb, all alone, right? While we are still indignant, right? Saying, what? Those women, they didn't tell anyone? Somebody has to tell the world that Jesus has been raised from the dead. More than that, someone has to meet Jesus in Galilee. He's expecting us. He's preparing for us. Someone has to go back to their Galilee, to their ordinary life, with expectant resurrection eyes, to see Jesus, to look for him, and to find him, that we might join him in this work of setting things right. Somebody needs to go, needs to tell, needs to join Jesus. But there's no one here. Mark ran off before his gospel was finished. The women, they have fled in terror and amazement. The male disciples and Peter are not to be found. It's just me and you. So who will go? Who will tell? Who will look? And who will join Jesus in the work of the resurrection? Maybe that's why Mark left his good news, his gospel, unfinished. Maybe he left it so that you and I could write a chapter. Not with our pens, not with our computers, but with our lives. Our resurrected